everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of Postnatal Minds, the podcast. I am really excited for today. I'm joined by someone who I've actually known for years, Steph, and I am really excited to hear about all the amazing things you've done. Steph, do you want to just introduce yourself? Let us know where you're from, how many children you've got, and what it is that you do.
Yeah, so I live in Brighton. I'm a mum to two children. One of them is going to be 3 next week, which shocks me when I say that out loud. And the other one's nearly 8. I am the co-founder of Soul Analyse. We design and sell affirmation jewellery. But I guess our biggest mission is just to remind people that they're going to get through whatever it is that they're going through.
Amazing. 8 and 3, quite a large gap between them both.
So I had Selena when I was 28, and I'm getting right into it now because when she was about 10 months old, 8 to 10 months old, me and Jasper actually broke up and we separated, which, was quite unsettling back then. And I'm sure we're going to get into more of the journey and what happened with my health along the way. But that kind of tied into us actually getting back together, and we got back together about a year and a half later, and we both, spent a lot of time thinking about how nice it'd be to have another child, how much we also wanted Selena to have a sibling, and we were kind of ready to, get going and have another one. But it did take us a little while. It took a little while for me to fall pregnant. So I probably would have preferred them to be closer together in age, but it's actually worked out quite nice because Selena is like Austin's other mum. She's so sweet with him. And,
Yeah, they're like such good little helpers, aren't they, at that age?
Oh yeah. Well, she thinks that she owns him, so he's like her little
It's so
toy.
true. Property of Selena. Yeah, Albert like
Yeah,
that as well.
exactly. Yeah. The newest thing actually is that she gets him to sleep in her bed. So he's like her little doll next to her. And when I go up to bed, they're both just like asleep, like, cuddling. It's so cute.
Oh, do you just spend ages staring at them? I feel like I'd just stare for hours.
Yeah, no, I do. At first, I'm like, thank God they're asleep. And then she puts them both in tears. But this is like really new. This has been happening for about a week. And Jasper's like, we've got to get them out. We can't keep doing this. But I'm like, oh, it's so cute.
I know, and they're only that little for long. Like before you know it, they'll both be like, "You stink, get away!" Like they won't.
Yeah.
They'll be arguing like siblings. I think you have to
Uh,
embrace the nice moments for as long as you can, don't you? In a way.
yeah, true.
So you had Selena when you were 28, is that right?
Yeah.
So tell us about you had some health concerns.
Yeah, so it was actually before Selena was 1. So I think she was probably about 11 months old when I found a lump in my breast. Me and Jasper had separated. Me and Selena were living in a house on our own. And I remember it all very clearly. One night I was in bed and I kind of just, with my arm, brushed past the lump. But it was obvious there was something there. So obviously went to the doctor. The doctor said to me that he didn't think it was anything to worry about, the GP, but he was going to refer me to the breast clinic just to be sure. When my appointment came round, I remember being in the breast clinic. I was on the phone to someone that I was working with, like someone that I'd hired to run some ads. And I remember saying to him, oh, I've just got an appointment, but I'm going to ring you as soon as I get out. And I remember feeling like, I haven't really got time for this appointment. This is a bit inconvenient. What am I doing here? And, also feeling like I'm wasting everyone else's time as well. I really did not expect it to be anything. Then I went in and the doctor had a look, immediately used the word concerning, which just completely hit me. And I remember just bawling my eyes out there and then, just like, what is going on? I was not expecting this. I thought I was coming in, you're going to tell me it's a cyst or something, and then I was going to go. Yeah, really, really wasn't expecting it. And he biopsied it there and then, and said to me, you're going to get the results in 2 weeks. So,
Because you go on to the 2-week cancer wait, don't you? A pathway.
Yeah. So obviously at that stage we didn't know what it was, but I was just waiting to find out. And I was
That was
convinced.
probably like the longest I mean, I don't know if you did have to wait 2 weeks, but that must have been like the longest 2 weeks you've ever experienced in your life when you're waiting for
Oh my
news
goodness.
like that.
Yeah, it really, really was. It was so horrible. So for the first, I would say 10 days, I would describe it as hell. I mean, I'm not a drinker anyway, and the reason I don't drink is because it doesn't really go well with me. But that day, I went home and I remember just downing vodka, just not knowing what to do. Yeah, which was the worst thing I could have done because I then woke up and it was
The
like
next
3 in the
day.
morning. Wow, I woke up in the middle of the night
Yeah.
and I remember thinking like, what's happened? Because I'm not used to drinking. Like, why am I hungover? What's going on? And I remember just running to the bathroom, throwing up, and just thinking like, what is going on? Like, am I going to have breast cancer? Like, what's happened to my life? Like, within one day, it's like completely spun around. Like, what's going on? And then for like the next 10 days, I was living in hell, and I just knew that I had it. I knew it was breast cancer.
Did
And
you?
everyone, yeah, I did. I just knew at that point. And everyone around me was like, of course it's not. You're young, you're this, you're that. You'd be losing weight, you'd feel sick, you'd have this. And I was like, I have all of those things. So I just kind of knew. And then I would say for like the last few days when I was waiting for that appointment to find out what it was, something shifted in me. And I suddenly thought, maybe this is happening for a reason. Maybe it's not happening to tip my life upside down. My life kind of already was tipped upside down. I'd separated from Jasper, nothing felt okay. Maybe this is happening to get my life back on track. And when I went in for the appointment and the doctor said, he said, I'm really sorry, you've got breast cancer. I was like, it's okay. I was so calm.
Really?
Yeah. Like I can't even describe like this feeling that came over me of just being like, I know and it's okay.
That sounds like quite a different, because initially what you're processing is traumatic, right? So your brain goes into overdrive and you're like, this is too big for my head to process. So we fight or flight, don't we? We go into denial, we get angry, we drink, we do whatever we
Mhm.
can other than facing the reality of what's happening to us. But
Yeah.
actually, what you're describing at the end of those 10 days was almost like an epiphany, a moment of realization. You're in that room, you're hearing the news, you cannot escape it. And I guess there is that fight or flight thing, isn't there? Did that feeling stay, or did you go through the stages of, I guess I was going to say grief, but it kind of is grief, isn't it? Because your life's never the same from that moment on, no matter what is ahead.
Yeah. I feel like breast cancer was meant to happen to me. And I feel like it
Really?
did make my life better. And one of the things that happened in those 10 days was that I just couldn't feel comfortable. So I put the TV on and have to turn it straight back off because it would just make me feel weird. I would just try and go about my day like I normally would, and it didn't feel okay. So then I started doing things like just walking through a field and seeing nothing but nature, and that felt really good. And I kind of very quickly learned what I need to do is go back to the basics and back to what actually, it sounds quite cheesy, but like soothes my soul. What I really need, what's going to ground me. And I feel like I carried that through the whole journey. That's not to say there weren't moments. Like after, I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but I had surgery to remove the cancer. And a few months later, I thought I found another lump in my other boob. And I went back in and I was seriously out of control at this appointment. I was like practically screaming on the bed when the doctor was checking it. So I definitely had some like health anxiety, I would call it.
I mean, no wonder. Like,
Yeah.
of course, like any of us
Mhm.
would would have responded in that way. So you said you had an operation to remove the lump. Like, what was your pathway after that? What happened after that?
Yeah, so immediately the doctor said when I was diagnosed, so this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be doing a lumpectomy to remove the lump, and then we recommend chemo, radiotherapy. Also, have you finished having children? We want to remove your ovaries because
Wow.
the breast cancer I had was driven by hormones. So
Right.
it was estrogen positive. So that was all quite, a lot to take in one moment. But immediately I just felt like that route wasn't for me and I didn't want to do that. I really appreciated being offered surgery and I did do that. So I had a lumpectomy where they just removed the lump and that is pretty much it. That's all I did medically. I went off and I found my own way and I guess completely had a whole lifestyle change. So I changed the way that I was eating. I stopped eating meat and dairy because, again, the cancer I had was driven by hormones, and meat and dairy and sugar wasn't going to help that. So I cut out all of those things. I did like a juice cleanse where I cut out food for like 8 days. I went in search of other people that had done it the way that I wanted to do it,
Yeah.
and that gave me a lot of hope. There's something very controversial about doing it the way that I did it. And I'm not sitting here and saying to anybody that's going through that that's what they should do, because I just would never tell anyone what to do,
No.
with
Yeah.
their health and with their journey. And what worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for someone else, or what works for someone else doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's going to work for me. But that's what I felt was the right thing to do. And
And with that, Steph, comes quite a lot of bravery, right? Because you're going against medical advice, which is, as you said, rightly or wrongly, a controversial thing to do. So, where did that bravery come from, and how did you know that wasn't for you? Was that subsided with fear as well? Like, are you scared, or did your bravery come from the fact that you like, I know this is going to be okay? Like, where were you at?
to be honest with you, I felt like the medical route would kill me.
Okay.
I had this very strong gut feeling that that just wasn't for me. And going through the grueling process of chemo and becoming a shell of the person that I was and everything that that would mean and what it would do to me, and radiotherapy, I just felt like that process alone would kill me.
Okay.
And I did not have it in me to do that. Hats off to people that do that, and if that's what they choose, then they are bloody strong people that go through that process. Because if you ask me, it's a hell of a lot harder than having cancer.
And did you have healthcare professionals saying to you, we don't think you should do this, or your prognosis is going to be worsened if you don't do this?
I had a lot of that. So in that initial appointment, I said to the doctor, no, I'm not doing that. I was like, that's not for me. And he obviously said a few bits to me there and then. I was then, so at the time, it makes me feel like a bit like even thinking about it, because when you've just been diagnosed with cancer, the last thing you need are people telling you that you're going to die, if you don't do something. It's just not what you need. So it still makes me feel a bit funny.
Yeah.
But Jasper was actually my big support through that, and they called me and Jasper in for an appointment with 3 oncologists. They sat us down and they said, this is really risky what you're doing. We do not recommend this. And they were trying to get Jasper on board with them, which felt a bit weird. It kind of felt like they wanted to all kind of sit down and say to me, you're doing the wrong thing.
An intervention.
An intervention, yeah, which was a bit patronising, to be quite honest, because, I wasn't needing that. I knew what I wanted to do. And then they also said as well, at that appointment where Jasper was there, they said, if you agree to do chemo, we'll offer you a test that's really expensive, and they only use in America, which will tell you what your chances of the cancer coming back. So I felt like they were dangling carrots as well.
God. It's like
Which
blackmail.
Yeah, it felt really strange and did not make me want to do it. And also, I'm not into chances and likelihoods and all of that. I had faith that I was going to be all right, and I wasn't down with that. So that happened, and then I had an appointment, a GP appointment, and I can't even remember what it was about. I feel like maybe it was for Selena because Jasper was there, and I know it's nothing to do with the cancer, but the GP, she was a lady. She said, can I just say, she was like, I've got a baby who's the same age as yours, and it really worries me that you're choosing not to do chemo. And she was like,
Gosh.
I would feel bad not saying something. And I was like, fair enough. Like, I appreciate the thought and where it's coming from, but, don't need it right now. So there
Well,
was.
it's those little things you remember, isn't it? The
Mhm.
little comments and those pinpoint moments that stick out when you look back.
Oh yeah, yeah. And there was one more as well. There was this was the worst one actually. I had to go to the cancer centre for an appointment for this was a few months after the surgery for a surgeon to just have a look. And I've got to be honest, the surgeons that operated on me were really amazing. They were really supportive. They were really lovely.
Yeah,
But this guy was really cold, and you could see that he was not happy that I was choosing to do it my way, and didn't really show me, much compassion. And I had to stand there without my top on or a bra, which felt a bit, I don't know.
vulnerable,
Yeah,
exposing. Yeah,
both, and yeah, because, his attitude towards me wasn't very nice. I felt like I had a lot of that going on, which I expected anyway. Like
yeah,
I knew that that was what was going to happen. I even had
yeah.
it from some family members,
Hmm.
just showing that they weren't pleased that I was doing this. So I had to kind of go against the grain. But again, that's what I felt was right. And I knew that that was going to keep me alive. So I was happy to do that.
Yeah, it was your choice. So, at what point? Oh, so many questions. I want to like jump forward and be like, did you ever go back and say, told you so? But also, like, before we get there, like, what did that next year look like?
So Selena was one, she was, yeah, just turned one, and my business was kind of taken off at that point. It was a bit of a strange time because I had the excitement of having a 1 year old and being a first time mum. And then I had, I guess, the responsibility of like healing. And one of the things that I decided was that I was going to let this experience be a real healing journey for me, not just healing from the cancer, but healing from everything that I'd never faced. So I started going to therapy. I also found faith through this journey, and I started going to church, which was so new to me because before having cancer, I was actually an atheist for quite a while. And I just felt like at one point or another, it just felt like too much pressure for me to carry. And I handed it over to, what I know as God. And I feel like that just made my journey so much lighter.
Do you feel like the feeling that you had, that you were describing where something just came over you and you felt calm? Do you align that with that finding that faith? Did that feel like a spiritual thing?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So what I know now is that when I use my faith, when I practice my faith, if I pray or certain songs make me get into that zone, I just experience this real like wave of peace. And it doesn't matter what is going on, that can come over me when I tap into it. And I've never stopped
That's
practicing.
actually amazing. I
Yeah.
really like I really envy people that are religious, and in some of the darker times of my life, I've always wished that I had that moment, or I've almost always wanted to be faithful, but nothing has ever clicked for me. And it's just, I know that's my pathway and that's not, but I always think it's amazing. And I really admire people who are able to, you know, enable, or I don't know if enable is the right word, but have religion in their life, and that it brings them so much peace and comfort. Because I think that's actually something that's really hard to find in life, particularly at the moment in the UK and the world. So that, I
Yeah,
think that just sounds amazing.
yeah, it is amazing. And I wish that everyone could experience it. I respect all religions and people that are not religious at all. You know, everyone's welcome to their own views. But if I had it my way, everyone would be, you know, just living with strong faith every day and experiencing the amazing, not only peace, but joy that that brings.
Yeah.
And there's just something about it that's so powerful, and I really want to leave it with my children so that they've got that, even if they don't, even if they tap out of it when they're older, you know, whenever they need it, whenever something happens in life, they can tap into that, because there is just nothing more comforting than feeling like you're being taken care of from a high
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, so a big part of your journey for sure. So I'm just thinking as well, Selena was a year. So even if none of this was going on, I feel like that year marker in that postnatal experience as a mum is quite a shift in your identity. You almost get your old identity coming back, don't you? And you're like, right, who am I now as a parent, particularly with your firstborn? I still think you get it with your second, but you're more kind of into role by then. But yeah, you've got that whole transition, and like you said, your business is launching, so you're probably thinking, right, I've got to be a mum. I'm coming through that whole first post year. I'm a mum now. I've got the business launch, I've got this health stuff. And then you also get all the feelings of like launching a business, which I experienced last year, like imposter syndrome, is this going to work? The nerves, like the need to like be a parent and financially be stable and earn a certain amount in order to live. Like
Yeah.
that is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I kind of like lost my identity along the way. Like the old me was like shedded and hasn't ever come back, which I guess is a good thing that I'm happy about. But I definitely had a long time where I did not know who I was. And I just felt like, you know, I couldn't, I guess if I saw someone that I hadn't seen in a while, something like that, I would feel like nervous to speak to them because I wasn't who I used to be. And I definitely found my identity after going through all of that. But I think it's hard because with Selena, I did have breast cancer. I don't know exactly what other people experience when their kids are like one. It was such a massive thing that I went through. And I guess I just had to rebuild.
And so you say no, thank you to kind of NHS treatment. Presumably you're still monitored via the NHS though, like you're still having your scans and blood tests and stuff to see if your route of treatment is working for you. Like how did you manage that part?
So when I was being tested for cancer, they did a mammogram and it didn't show up. And I later learnt that mammograms can actually be quite dangerous if you have cancer because it can squeeze the tumour and cause it to nest, they call, and spread. So that's all they could offer me, an annual
Right.
mammogram. I was like, there's just no point because if something's there, it might not show up. If it is there, it might make it worse. So I actually found out about thermography, which is like
Okay.
a heat, it's
Yeah.
like heat
Okay.
imagery. So I did that for the first few years privately, and it's like a scan, and they pick up on any heat, and the redder the scan is, it kind of indicates that something might be going on, inflammation, cancer, that kind of thing. So I did do that for a few years, and then I decided that I was actually just going to go with my gut. Like when I had cancer, when I look back, when I had cancer, I clearly had cancer. It
Right.
wasn't, although I was really surprised when I first went for that appointment, it was obvious. I had all the symptoms. I had
Right.
the lump, I had the nausea, I had the losing weight. I just obviously had Selena as well, and I was stick thin. You know, all of those things.
Yeah.
not being able to eat much. I know how I felt when I had
Hmm.
cancer,
Hmm.
and I'm pretty sure I would know again if I had it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So I kind of choose to just go by what I know. I know my body, I know myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're an expert by experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely nothing like your journey, but I've always been quite a lumpy, bumpy person. So I've had to visit that centre quite a few times. And I had a fibroadenoma. So I had a lump and I went and I had a biopsy there and then as well. And by the way, biopsies are not very nice. I don't know if you,
No.
I mean, they're not nice things to have done, are they? So I just have masses of respect for you. And I know that what you were describing about feeling exposed, standing there with your boobs out to like strangers, two or three people. And well, it's quite inhumane, isn't it? You're made to feel like an
Yeah.
object. It's really
Yeah.
hard to describe, but yeah, it's,
Did you have to wait then for results, or did they? You
yeah, I
did.
had to wait. Yeah,
What
yeah.
was that like?
I'm quite like, until I need to worry about something, I won't worry about it. It was like when we got Arlo's diagnosis, I was like, I can't begin to manage this until I have it on paper because I'm
Mm.
quite distrusting of things. So I'm like, I'll say there's enough to worry about right now. I'll save my energy for when. And youth was probably on my side a little bit. I actually ended up having the lump out because it was growing. It was like a growing one, and it was like the size of a golf ball. But obviously having the biopsy, and I think I was quite young, and I didn't have children. I didn't have that like walk of life thing, so it didn't dawn on me as much. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense, but yeah, it is a very intimate and exposing thing to go through as a woman, and it's, we need to talk about it more. It's like smear tests as well, and like you were saying about mammograms, because they're very unpleasant as well, aren't they?
Yeah, painful. Like it squeezes your
Yeah.
breasts together. Funny enough, the breast clinic that you said you visited as well, I actually went to view an office there a couple of weeks
Oh,
ago.
really?
Yeah, upstairs on one of the floors because we're moving into a new premises soon. And I did
Would
think,
you be able to do that? It's not going to be a bit triggering.
no, I thought it was meant to be. And anyway, it turns out it doesn't look like we're getting it. It looks like that's not going to go
Okay.
ahead. But that's what a couple of people said to me. Would that not be really triggering? And I was like, no, it'd be amazing. I can get in the lift in the morning with the oncologist and be like, hi, I'm
Hi,
still
remember
alive.
me? Didn't think I'd be here.
Yeah. And also, I thought it'd be nice to, I don't know, I'd be out there giving jewellery to everyone that was going for their appointment.
Yeah, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, yeah. You've
You
got
make
this.
your
Come on.
videos really easily, like in the lift.
I've been known as the little
So,
pest upstairs.
yeah, a little kiosk. So you come through the other end, you go against medical advice. Was there a point that you were given the all clear? Like where did your kind of journey with cancer? I mean, it will never really be ending, will it? Because you've had it, so it's something presumably that could come again, like for any of us. But at what point did you kind of put a marker in to say, right, that period of my life is over and I can relax and not worry now to a certain extent, and here comes the next chapter? Like, what was that point for you?
So it was kind of frustrating because I didn't really have that point where
Okay.
it was like a year after and they'd done a test and they were like, yeah, it's all good. There was none of that. So all they said to me, the doctors, was that the lump's gone. It's gone. And if you get, symptoms, backache, certain things they said come back, it could be a sign that's back.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to get that from them, and I really wanted it. I really wanted some kind of like indication that I
Finality,
was
yeah.
cancer free. Yeah. So I guess I learned that I had to give that to myself. I still obviously had some health anxiety after going through that, and through therapy, I really got to a place where I just felt better about it and just thought that period of my life is over. I mean, this year in April, it's going to be like 7 years. So I definitely wanted to obviously get to the 5 years. I felt like at 5 years, because that's when you're medically classed as cancer free,
Yeah.
that would be a little bit of a, okay, like, I'm good. But much earlier on, I felt okay about it and just kind of learned to live with it, live with the idea
Yeah.
that, you know, like you said, 1 in 2 people are going to get cancer now. It's kind of looming over everyone. So you can either choose to live in fear or
Yeah.
you can just get on with it and not let that be at the forefront.
And what they wanted to do the chemo and radiotherapy, and in their eyes, was that to like blast what was there? Because obviously they took the lump out. Was that preventative, that second part?
Yeah, I guess so. So when they did the surgery, they got clear margins, so there was none left. But they just said basically that that's what's worked in the past.
Okay.
That that's what they found has had the best results. And they also said that some people go for the full mastectomy as
Yeah.
well, like, just to be sure. It all just felt a bit extreme to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So at that point, your business was launching. So pre-launch, where did Soul Analyse come from and what made it happen for you?
Yeah, so Soul Analyse was an idea that I came up with Jasper years ago after I went through losing my dad. So I lost my dad in 2012, and then I spent the 2 years following that just in a really bad place. Like, I didn't want to, operate normally. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to take care of myself. I started drinking more, started abusing substances, and
Self-destruct mode.
yeah, pure self-destruct where I just could not see anything to live for. So like it hit me so bad when my dad died, and I guess at that point I hadn't learned any coping tools. I had nothing. So when he passed away, like I remember for the first month, he was diagnosed with cancer and he died within a few months. So it was all like very quick.
Really?
Yeah, very severe. No, just horrible. It's a really horrible way to watch someone die because they're in excruciating pain. Just the worst way to go.
4 months, Steph.
Yeah, well, he was given a month to live when he was diagnosed. Can you imagine?
No.
And he told me straight away. So he told me on the phone. So he was like, "You need to get here now." He was living in Southampton. But yeah, he was given a month to live, which is just crazy. And I remember that from that first day, the first thing I did was that night when I went to his was I started drinking, and I didn't stop drinking for about 3 months, like every day.
Yeah.
And I guess that just became, a tool that I relied on. And then when he did pass away, I wasn't drinking every day, but certainly a couple of times a week, drinking, staying up all night, doing all that kind of stuff, and just got myself into such a rut. And then one day I was actually lying in bed. It was in the middle of the day. I was lying in bed, and Jasper started playing this video, and it was a lady called Louise Hay. I don't know if you know her,
No.
but she's like the affirmation queen. She actually passed away a few years ago. Yeah, but she's amazing. And he started playing this video. He came across on YouTube, and at first he was like, "Listen to this," and she was like talking about affirmations, talking about how we can change our lives based on what we speak and what we think. And I remember feeling a bit annoyed about it and being like, "Turn it off." But I was listening to it. I remember just lying there listening to it and taking it in. And like I said, I really had no other tools. So I thought, this is something that I can try. So I thought I'd give it a go. I started sticking post-it notes around my house. I really did start feeling better. The difference that it made to me was like within a month was so profound. I just felt like I wanted to start living again. That I was like, I need to tell people about this. And
Yeah.
Jasper felt the same. We felt
Yeah.
like it was quite a new thing. There wasn't really anyone certainly not in England, talking about affirmation.
Yeah, because you hear about it quite a lot now, don't you? And I know that like everyone's got a favourite thing of saying at the moment, what's your love language?
Yeah,
And obviously that comes up quite a lot, words of
yeah.
affirmation being your love language. But yeah, you're so right. It just wasn't a thing then.
It wasn't a thing at all. I remember talking to people about it and they were like, "After what?"
Yeah.
No, just no one knew about it. Of course, in America they did. They're always ahead
Yeah.
over there. And we kind of had it as like this thing that we were talking about. We ended up going to Vegas for Jasper's birthday, and we were in a shop over there. And it wasn't a shop where you'd expect to see affirmations. It was Forever 21. I'd like forgotten
Okay.
something in my suitcase, and we'd nipped over. and we walked in and we were both just like, our mouths hit the floor because we just saw these affirmations all over the shop, and we were like, this is a sign. And I remember us both being in the queue like, we need to do this. We've got to just start this thing. We don't know how or what we're going to do.
Really?
Start it.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. I feel like that's quite unique and special that you both felt that as well. Like
Mhm.
normally it's an idea that one person might have floating around in their head, but
Yeah.
yeah, the fact that both of you, like that must have been quite an exciting moment. So what
Yeah.
then? Like how did that develop into what it is today?
Yeah. So I guess we were so clueless back then. Neither of us had any experience in running a business. We didn't know, we run an online business which is called e-commerce, and e-commerce wasn't a word that we knew. We didn't know anything. We didn't know how to launch a website, just none of that. So we really started from the ground
From the
up.
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing which, is quite important when you're starting a business is having resources. We didn't even have any money. So we did have £1,000 though, and we started our first jewellery range with literally £1,000. We put it into it. That's all we had at the time. But the company itself started a year before that. So
Okay.
we kind of just started working on it and teaching ourselves each step along the way. So I built our first website on WordPress, had no idea what I was doing, and I would love to go back and look at that website because I know it would be so funny to see how
I
far
think
we've
we've
come.
all done that. Yeah, we've all done
Yeah,
that, some self-taught thing. And no one's websites were
yeah.
good back then either. I feel like that's a
No.
new thing too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, when you think how like homemade it must have looked, but we just kept going, and we just kept going with each step. So website was first, and then social media pages, and we built up quite a following. I think, we had, I can't even remember now, but at least like 20,000 followers when we launched our jewellery. And we wanted that community to be built, and the jewellery was actually like an afterthought,
Right.
spreading affirmations and helping people to, just know that they're going to get through it, encouraging people. That's what's always been at the forefront of what we've done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we just had that as our driving force and learnt each step as we went, and didn't know where it was going to take us. Like I remember when we first started doing this and we didn't have any other jobs, and people would say to us, get a job. People that knew us would be like, what are you doing? Like, what is this thing that you're doing? And it just seemed like like we both lost it, and we were, hippies on this on
Yeah.
this little journey of yeah, to nowhere that I think people might have thought. But yeah, we just
Do
felt
you think
strongly.
people around you thought this is just a phase, it won't go anywhere?
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
Do you
definitely.
think?
I could tell by the look on people's faces when they were laughing when I was talking to them about it.
And what was the first piece of jewelry? Like what was the first thing you did?
So the first piece of jewelry was bangles, and they said, I'm grateful, I'm present. Sorry,
Oh
not
my
I'm
God, I've
grateful,
just realised
I'm
something. This is
thankful.
it. I
Oh,
wear
really? What one have
it
you
every day.
got? No way. What one have you
Yeah,
got?
I've got I
I
am
am
thankful. But I
thankful.
literally bought, I remember when they came out, and I remember before I even bought them, I was at work and a lady had the three of them on, like the gold, the silver, and was it brass? I can't remember what it was, but I
Rose
remember saying,
gold.
like, yeah, I remember saying they're really nice, and then I looked on the website and I ordered one for myself, and then I realised it was you afterwards.
No
And then,
way.
I went through a phase. I bought I used to buy them for people's 30ths and stuff. Like, so yeah, and
Oh,
I've got two. I still wear mine every day. Isn't that funny? I didn't even think about that then.
yeah. So that
Yeah,
must
I
have
love
been,
them.
yeah. And how, can I just ask you, how does it look to this day? Don't they last years? Like they just do
Yeah.
not change.
I mean, I've had this when I moved back to Brighton, 2016. Literally, it's still bright
Love
gold. I
it.
mean, it's with Mother. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
remember they always used to sell out because I remember when I looked for them,
Uh-huh.
they'd never have the gold ones in stock. So there you go.
Oh, love that.
I didn't set that up at all either, I promise.
No,
I just
I
didn't.
know you.
I
I know
genuinely
you
do
didn't.
wear it every day.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love it. Well, the thing is, when you've got something that's, on your wrist that's gonna remind you, why would you take it off? That is the whole point. I
Yeah.
still, I still have messages all around. I still use post-it notes. I still strongly believe in having, these little reminders. Doesn't matter what you've got going on in life. We all need reminders. We all need
100%.
to be encouraged. And
Yeah, I think we're at a point now with parenting where we know that, like, our children are sponges. They copy us, they take it all in, they absorb it. So I really noticed when I had a girl like you first, that the first thing people would say to her was like, "Oh, I love your dress," or "I love your hair, and you're so pretty, aren't you?" And "I love your clips," and "I loved it." And I really noticed that as a culture, we comment on appearance straight away, like that's the most important thing. So we do, me and Albs do affirmations, and I will defo do them with Arlo when he gets older. So they're in their rooms, they've got them on the wall, and I do say, "I am beautiful and you are strong." I said, "Let's do affirmations," then repeat them. She does one, I do one. But I always try and match the beautiful and the gorgeous ones with strong and kind and
yeah.
thoughtful. And yeah, I think like you, it's so important that we talk about emotions and feelings, and not just in relation to image. I mean, particularly important for me with Arlo's condition, because one of my
Yeah.
fears is that we still live, it's getting better, but we still live in a very aesthetic,
Mm,
stereotypical world. And yeah, I think it's so important that we open up just
mm,
those words, being present and them knowing what it means.
yeah. There's so much more to us, isn't there, as people than just the way that we look. Like, really, that's the smallest thing about us. That's the tiniest
Yeah,
little minuscule part of us, the way that we look. And it really doesn't matter as well, the way that we look, because if we're lucky enough to grow old, we're going to lose our looks anyway. We're just going to
yeah,
end up wrinkled and, our nice skin or, whatever it is that kind of we feel like makes us who we are, if we're living from that place of not, tapping into the deeper part of ourselves, it's going to go. It's not always going to be
yeah.
there. So,
Yeah, I've had to do a lot of like think that perspective. We learn, like you, one of the darkest times in our life, we learned the most about life and perspective on what was important. And yeah, I just couldn't agree with what you said more. I think it's not until those things happen to you that you realise that, like you realise that looks are the most obvious thing when we meet someone, but we are like we're the what comes out of here, and here is us. And as long as you can try and raise your children with love and security within themselves, which is a very hard thing to do, we set them up the best we can. But yeah,
yeah,
I'm a big affirmation fan for sure. I think it's really
yeah,
important.
yeah, it is so important. And I mean, it's a big responsibility, isn't it, being a parent? To, feel like not only have we got to, do like the day-to-day stuff, keep them fed and all of that alive, but also we want to make sure that they're secure little beings who feel confident in themselves. It's such a
Yeah,
big responsibility, and I just think you're doing an amazing job. I just want to say that, and
thank
incorporating
you.
into that is incredible. And I know
Yeah.
the journey that you've been on must, I can't even comprehend how tough that must have been.
But it's like what you were saying, you just go into practical mode, do it mode, and you think either you let that take over your life and you dwell, or you think, right, what have I learned from this? What can I do? What can I role model? And yeah,
Yeah,
like I'd be lying if I said that one of my biggest fears now isn't what Arlo might face when he's older, but that
yeah,
I always say, I've probably said this quite a few times on the podcast, but if I worry now, I'm going to worry twice about things that might not even happen. So I've
Yeah.
really homed in on taking each day as it comes and being present and actually reflecting on how lucky we are to have two children that are happy and loved.
Yeah.
It's a massive gift in itself. And there are always
Yeah.
people that are worse off than us, always.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
see that, when we do our hospital stays, when there are families everywhere that live in hospitals, and not to like compare.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I think if you can grow through that, like you seem to have, I think that's just so powerful because, and also the awareness that you're spreading is amazing. Like you're using it as like a tool to, yeah, it's incredible. Like you're going to help empower other people and let them know that they're not alone. And that's what it's
yeah.
all about. Maybe you were given this as a gift, your little Arlo's little gift that's going to go on to help so many other people.
Yeah, I have had that thought loads because obviously postnatal minds wouldn't exist without him. But I also
Yeah.
I was at the peak of my career when I got pregnant, really. I'd worked really hard. I had a big responsibility, I had a big NHS role, and I got pregnant. And I was so shocked at people's comments about, like, oh, you're going to come back part time then? And, oh, you won't be able to do this job then, will you? And I was like, yeah, I'll be back. Like, what do you mean? And I've always felt a responsibility to challenge that stigma of, I can and I will be successful as a mother. And you must have faced that as well, right? Like that stigmatization towards an entrepreneurial role.
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, Selena was 6 months old when we launched our first jewellery collection. So that was a bit, no, sorry, I was 6 months pregnant. She wasn't 6 months old. I was 6 months pregnant when we
I
launched
was going to
it.
say, wow.
Yeah, so six months pregnant, and I did it all throughout my pregnancy, and when she was born, and all of that. And yeah, definitely, like that's the stage where people thought that we were kind of doing this airy fairy thing that wasn't going anywhere, didn't take it seriously. And then with Austin, when I fell pregnant with him, I guess I didn't really hear it so much from other people, but I guess I had a bit of doubt going on in my own head about
Yeah.
whether I would be able to do this, whether, because the company was at a different stage then. We had some staff, we were busy, like we just had our busiest year. We just come through the pandemic, which we grew like 500% that year in
I was going to
2020.
say, like, that is a perfect environment to need affirmations within, right? And everyone being at
Yeah.
home and yeah.
Yeah, so it was like that, literally like flu in 2020. 2021, I fell pregnant, and actually, what happened was we had some issues going on with our marketing, and our sales went like that.
Oh
So,
no.
yeah, which coincided with me being pregnant and really wasn't great because I was, questioning whether it was happening because I'd fallen pregnant, because maybe I wasn't on the ball enough. I had really bad morning sickness, or should we say all day sickness.
Yeah, sod the morning part. Yeah.
Yeah, like what was that about? So I felt like I couldn't even really operate at my normal level, like anywhere near my normal level. Like I couldn't even, keep the house in check, let
No.
alone business.
I think that's one of I think you've pulled out a really key point there about when you are self-employed and you have your own business, not only do you have the pressures of, like, I sit here today, like I joked with you, didn't I, about the table behind the screen, like there's like
Yeah. Hmm.
samples and stuff everywhere. And I know that loads of stuff needs doing. I find that I've had to work through that. But like, it's so difficult when you work in your home too, most of the time, to did not do that, like blaming on that. This is because I only have 2 days of nursery childcare, or like if I hadn't got pregnant or if I hadn't had my second. But it's really hard to separate that sometimes. I don't know about you, but I have to be quite boundaried and remind myself of the importance of, actually, the most important thing is being a mum, and they are the most important thing. But it's like you have to work really hard to keep the two level and together, rather than like competing off each other all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't give you any advice on that because I'm always trying to find a bit of balance. I'm still
I
not
know.
there.
But who
And
but who does? And this is the beauty of
yeah,
talking about it, because like
yeah,
is there someone out there that, without like either a 24-hour nanny or a
Yeah.
24-hour cleaner every day. I mean, my
Yeah.
house I'm lucky to have a cleaner every other week, but like for 2
Hmm.
hours, and for like half an hour, everything feels okay. It
Yeah.
all goes to shit again later.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know if there is anyone that has it together. And I think we've all got
No.
tables that look like that. And like
Yeah.
you, one thing that I really love about your social media identity is that you keep it real and you talk about, and I think we are culturally moving into a more honest and open place, and I think it's so refreshing.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, nowadays, women are realising that there's more out there that we could be doing.
Yeah,
There's actually a lot of opportunities online, and people are taking it. Women are taking the opportunities, and why bloody not? But does that mean that you have to sacrifice some things? Yeah, it might do. It might mean that you need to get used to your house being a little bit messy sometimes and not needing to be perfect. Or you might be a bit messy sometimes and not perfect. Like,
yeah,
sometimes I walk around looking like I've just been pulled in from from a rave or something, and I've just
yeah.
woken
No,
up in
it's
the
so
day.
true.
Yeah,
It's
you
so
kind of
funny you said that, because yesterday I hadn't looked in the mirror all day. We just got back from a weekend away. I had loads of washing to do. The kids had all like have had norovirus. It's been like a time.
oh
But I
no.
looked in the mirror in the bathroom, and like all my postnatal hairs were like, I had like a fan around my face. I literally had like bags like that. I said, I look like that bird puffing out of that field. I very nearly took a picture of it and put it on PlayStation One. So I was like, no, even that's too far and too honest for me. But like, let's not pretend that we don't all look like that.
We all go through it.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
we absolutely all go through it. And, the more that we can laugh at ourselves, the better it is, because it's just life. We can't have it all together. We can't look perfect all the time. We can't have
Yeah.
it all. Like, we can have a business, or we can work and have kids. We absolutely can do that. And we can have a career and ambitions and all of that. But there are things that have to be sacrificed, and sometimes it's the way we look, sometimes it's our health, not health. And yeah, we just got to laugh about it and just make light of it. Just
Yeah.
enjoy the journey. And it's a different time that we're in. Like, years ago, there wasn't the internet, and there wasn't people doing things online, or even online businesses. When we were kids, there wasn't that.
No.
It's kind of a different time that we're in. It's like a new world, and we're trying to adjust to it and, find out how to live in this new world. And yeah, we'll get there. We just need to go easier on ourselves.
Yeah. And I normally say at like the end of these conversations, what's your biggest piece of advice? And that was a big piece of advice. But my question was going to be, how do you boundary and how do you switch off? Because I can imagine with a company that's growing and that's developing, and that really, like, with you, like one post can suddenly have millions of views or comments, or, one product could really take off. Like, how do you I know you're looking for an office at the moment. We talked about that, but like, have you had to learn how to just be like, right, I'm not looking? Do you have two phones, or do you just turn something off? Like, how do you be present for your kids when you need to be?
I do have two phones, but I have everything on both. So that,
Defeating the object.
yeah, that doesn't help me to create boundaries. I guess. So we started on TikTok a couple of years ago, and it's been a wild journey. Like I mentioned, we had a really hard time where we were going downhill and sales were declining. It was very scary. And TikTok has really helped us to go the other way. And it's been this amazing journey of like growing and connecting with our community. And I guess we've got the kids involved more in that. So it
Yeah,
feels like it's not so separated now. It doesn't
yeah,
feel like, the kids aren't allowed to be around if we're working and whatnot. But then, of course, there are times where they need us, and they need us to be switched on to them and
yeah,
switched off from work. And yeah, like I said before, I'm still trying to find that balance, but it's about, I guess, just putting the phone down, just being with them.
yeah, yeah. That's
Just
so true.
not
You
having,
do. You have to work hard at it, and it does slip, doesn't it? And you have to kind of regroup all the time.
yeah.
So I know you're obviously on Instagram and TikTok. Where can people find you, and how can they have a look at all your lovely bits?
Yeah, so TikTok, Instagram, and our website is Soul Analyse. The website's soulanalyse.com, and we go live on TikTok every day. So if they want to come and have a chat and see some items up close, that's a new thing that we're actually doing, which takes a
Yeah.
lot of time, but it's very enjoyable and it's a great way to kind of see what we've got going on, because then you can ask questions and see things on the screen.
Yeah, TikTok's like the place to be, isn't it? Well, unless you're in America, but I think it's back on now, isn't it? But yeah,
Back
that's
on.
another example of how things can change and not to put all your eggs in one basket, right? I can put the link to the website once the podcast goes live, so everyone will be able to find you.
Oh,
I feel like we could have spoken for hours on, and there's
yeah.
so much we haven't talked about, but thank you so much for
Yeah.
being so open and honest. I think your positive outlook and your strength just totally shines through. I think a lot of people will just love hearing your story, and I think it's really brave to talk about it, because I think a lot of people would have gone through what you've been through and probably not talked about it and just allowed it to kind of sit in the past. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on. And I just think you're amazing and so inspiring.
Thank you.
So,
Oh, bless
yeah, I'm
you.
so happy to be here.
Thanks so much. Hope everyone enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.